At this price, I can't even afford underwear anymore. Selling 2 bags of chili peppers doesn't even earn enough for a pack of lard, right? It's only 2.3 yuan per jin. Sigh, I'm not even making enough to cover my underwear.
今天的菜价实在是太夸张了。
Today's vegetable prices are absolutely outrageous. I just bought pork belly for 16 yuan per jin, and crown daisy and spinach are even more expensive than pork. The key question is, what's driving vegetable prices so high? There haven't been any flight suspensions or typhoons. People always say prices in Hainan are high, and now it really feels tangible. The kids aren't home anyways, so we'll just have porridge with pickled vegetables for lunch. The vegetable prices in Hainan on December 19th are outrageous. Garlic is 35 yuan per jin, 500 grams. On the first day after the Hainan Free Trade Port opened, the price of tomatoes in Hainan was truly outrageous. Ordinary people really can't afford them. They're already 10 yuan per jin. I came to a big shopping mall in Sanya Bay today. Let me check the time. It's 5:20 and there aren't many people there. Sanya's reputation isn't good anymore. Look at that neighborhood, it's already October, and apart from people buying houses and the sales office, it's mostly tourists, retirees, and vacationers. It's deserted. Before, the neighborhood was full of people taking walks, but now, is anyone even there? Hello everyone in Haikou. I'm a tourist from Inner Mongolia. I have a few questions for you. Other tourist destinations are packed with people, but here, during the National Day holiday, there's practically no one around. While the official celebrations were filled with fanfare and celebratory pronouncements of historic moment, the Hainan market was unusually quiet. On December 18th, the Hainan Free Trade Port officially closed off the entire island. Xinhua news agency announced with great fanfare that Hainan's 8 open ports and 10 second-line ports were officially operational. The whole island, covering over 30,000 square kilometers, was incorporated into a special customs supervision zone, implementing a new system of open of the first line, controlled at the second line, and free within the island. State media repeatedly emphasized that this was a primary national strategy, personally planned, personally deployed, and personally promoted by Xi Jinping, and another milestone in China's opening up. But the problem lies precisely here. Almost all reports, while emphasizing openness, unanimously added a political premise. It is imperative to adhere to the centralized and unified leadership of the party Central Committee. In the historical experience of free trade ports worldwide, such a statement is particularly jarring. Shay Tian, a professor at the University of South Carolina's Business School, bluntly stated that the Hainan Free Trade Port is more like a vanity project by Xi Jinping, mirroring the Shanghai Free Trade Zone of the past, grand in its slogans but limited in substance. The Shanghai Free Trade Zone was initially met with high expectations, even rumors that it had lifted internet censorship. Still, the authorities ultimately denied this, and its development has been similarly lackluster. The facts have repeatedly proven that the CCP is unwilling and dares not truly relinquish power at the institutional level. A more pressing issue is that Hainan lacks the most basic foundation for a free economy: a stable, transparent, and predictable legal environment, and a market mechanism free from arbitrary political interference. Shay Tian pointed out that those who bet on Hainan early on have already had their funds tied up. With the overall economic downturn in China, the bursting of the Hainan Free Trade Port bubble is almost only a matter of time. Furthermore, the problem is also evident in the prices, a matter of great concern to the public. The closure of the Hainan border has not brought any benefits to the people. On the first day of Hainan's border closure, let's check out prices in Haikou to see if there's any difference. How much is this per jin? 38 yuan. How about 35 yuan? I can't sell it for 35 yuan. These pointed chili peppers, those are all 7 yuan. How much are these beans? Those are 10 yuan. How much are these? These are cheaper, 9 yuan. How much is this, ma'am? 10 yuan. And that one? 13 yuan. And that one? 10 yuan. How much are the garlic sprouts? 9 yuan. And the scallions? Scallions are 5 yuan. The high prices in Hainan are a long-standing issue. One netizen said that when she first arrived in Hainan, many locals complained about the high prices, even jokingly telling tourists to remember to complain before leaving the island. She didn't take it too seriously at the time until recently when she started cooking for herself and realized that Hainan's prices are indeed very unfriendly. The prices of many common ingredients have reached unacceptable levels. When I went to the supermarket to buy groceries, I saw that spinach was priced at 9.8 yuan per kilogram. At first, I thought it was a special variety or imported spinach, and I also wondered if the supermarket I chose was overpriced. The supermarket was quite large, one of the larger ones in the area. Later, I went to a small supermarket nearby which was very small and could be browsed in just a few minutes. But the price of spinach was still 9.8 yuan per kilogram, unchanged. Then I thought that the overall supermarket prices might be too high, so I went to the farmer's market. Usually, prices at the farmer's market are lower, but the price of spinach was even higher at 10 yuan per kilogram, 0.2 yuan more than at the supermarket. This series of comparisons made me clearly feel the pressure brought by the current price level. Another time, a netizen went to buy tomatoes. 3 tomatoes cost 8 yuan, and they were all small, the smallest of which was smaller than the others. She said she really questioned her life. Was this in Hainan? Is it possible to live normally without earning 10,000 yuan a month? If she really cooked every day, she might go bankrupt. The cost of living in Hainan is at least 10,000 yuan a month. Why are prices so high? Why is your rent so expensive? Why is your cost of living so high? In Hainan alone, all industries can only cover 4 months' worth of expenses. Let me tell you, for a family like ours, food expenses are at least 3,000 yuan a month. Coconuts are arguably one of Hainan's most representative products. When we first arrived in Hainan, the price of a coconut was basically fixed at 1.5 yuan, with chilled coconuts selling for 2 yuan. The price difference was noticeable and relatively stable. But now, the price of coconuts has risen significantly. Generally, a coconut costs between 8 and 10 yuan, which is actually considered cheap. In many places, coconuts are selling for around 15 yuan. In areas near Sanya Bay and with lots of tourist activity, the price of coconuts is generally higher, usually selling for over 10 yuan, with some stalls selling them for 10 yuan directly. Some netizens have even started researching how to grow their own vegetables. The prices are pushing me to this point. I'm furious. It's second only to Hong Kong. I have lived in Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen. In Hong Kong, all cities are cheaper than here. You're only slightly more affordable than they are. But what about the people of Hong Kong? Their income? What kind of income is Hainan? A netizen said she even seriously suggested in her customer group that they use a piece of idle land her husband owns in Haikou to organize customers to grow their own vegetables. After the vegetables are ripe, they won't be sold externally, they'll only be divided equally among us. Then, designated personnel will be responsible for harvesting and delivery, and everyone can pick them up themselves. This guarantees safe and controlled prices. This isn't a gimmick, it's a self-help method forced by high prices. It's pushed me to the point of self-sufficiency, you know? A skincare product store owner is planning to lead his customers in growing vegetables and opening a vegetable garden in Haikou. It sounds unbelievable to everyone. This is what I'm planning now. I said, let's all grow vegetables together. 365 families, one family doing it for a day is enough, and that'll last a year. Actually, I have no choice. I really think it's too expensive. Some netizens also said that 100 yuan in Hainan is no longer equivalent to RMB, and they summarized the 5 commodities with the highest price increases. 5th place, boiled chicken. In 2005, boiled chicken sold for approximately 12 to 15 yuan per jin. By 2025, the price of the same type of cooked chicken had risen to 40 yuan per jin, an increase of approximately 160%. 4th place, rice noodle soup. In 2015, a bowl of rice noodle soup typically cost 2 to 3 yuan, with street stalls selling it for less than 1.5 yuan. By 2025, the price of the same bowl of rice noodle soup had generally risen to 8 to 10 yuan, an overall increase of approximately 200%. 3rd place, beef. In 2005, beef cost approximately 13 yuan per jin. By December 2025, the market price of beef in Hainan had reached 47 yuan per jin, an increase of over 263%. Furthermore, consider housing prices. In 2005, housing prices in Hainan were around 3,000 to 4,000 yuan per square meter. By December 2025, these prices had risen to approximately 15,400 yuan per square meter. Roughly calculated, this represents an increase of nearly 280% over 20 years. However, the highest price increase was seen in pork trotter rice. In 2005, a serving of pork trotter rice cost about 5 to 8 yuan, a quick and easy meal for many. But by 2025, the same serving of pork trotter rice in many restaurants was selling for 18 to 25 yuan. This translates to an increase of approximately 200 to 400%. I just ordered a bowl of noodles for 20 yuan. Generally speaking, in cities with higher prices, residents' incomes are usually higher, creating a correlation. However, this doesn't hold in Hainan. Regardless of whether an individual's monthly income is 2,800 yuan or lower, commodity prices don't decrease. Beef can still cost 70 yuan per jin, and housing prices can remain around 20,000 yuan per square meter, indicating a severe disconnect between the cost of living and residents' income. This is why many people from other provinces lack an intuitive understanding of Hainan price levels. To use a more direct indicator, Hainan angle coefficient has consistently been among the highest in the country, reflecting a significantly heavy burden on residents' basic living expenses, such as food. For example, the angle coefficient refers to the proportion of an individual's or family's total consumption expenditure spent on food. The higher the proportion, the greater the pressure of eating on the cost of living. In developed first-tier cities like Beijing, the angle coefficient is around 21%. In Shanghai, it's only around 26%. In other words, if residents of Beijing and Shanghai have 100 yuan, they only need to spend about 20 yuan on food. Hainan's angle coefficient has reached a staggering 39%. In other words, in Hainan, for every 100 yuan spent, nearly 39 yuan goes towards food. This structure is inherently unreasonable. What's even more perplexing is that with such high prices, residents' incomes should logically be correspondingly higher. But the reality is the opposite. No one is earning money, and income levels haven't increased in tandem. Where has all this money eaten up by high prices gone, and who ultimately profits from it? It's worth noting that Hainan became a province in 1988 and was designated the country's largest special economic zone. Capital from across the nation poured in, with hopes that it would become the Hawaii of the East. However, the real estate bubble burst in the early 1990s, compounded by the financial crisis, leading to a prolonged economic slump in Hainan. Even its pioneering implementation of visa on arrival to attract international tourists failed to turn things around. This time, the free trade port story has been repackaged, but it hasn't escaped the old problems. It feels like our city is sick. Every industry is in decline. Look at this place, Shinbu Island Seafood World, which used to be bustling with people. These restaurants are really closing down. Sometimes it's heartbreaking, even for laymen. Only a few have managed to stay afloat. It's tough. A netizen in the tourism industry noted that the number of visitors to Hainan this year is indeed not high. Even in Sanya, a traditionally core tourist area, the actual situation is quieter than many people imagine. Today, I'm on Haihua Island. The occupancy rate is less than a third of what it used to be. The streets are deserted. Is it because prices for food and vegetables are so high this year? I receive no fewer than 70 calls a day from people asking about my apartment. I'm using 2 phones to answer them all, and everyone just says, "Wow, it's so expensive." It wasn't like this before. Maybe it's because people are finding it harder to earn money these days, and they're really reluctant to spend it. Some people even say, "I have some money, but I use it to subsidize my children's car and mortgage payments." That's what I do too. Sigh, I really don't know what to do about tourism in the future. Another netizen commented that in the past the streets of Hainan would be noticeably different in the winter. You'd always see RVs from Sichuan, cars with Beijing license plates, and vehicles from Hebei and other provinces driving in one after another. Those license plates and car models became familiar over time, appearing around the same time every year, a kind of seasonal scenery. But this year is different. None of those family cars is there anymore. This winter in Hainan is extraordinary. I remember in previous years, many people would come to Hainan to escape the winter starting in October. But this year, I've noticed that most of the parking spaces in our neighborhood are empty. Before, we didn't have enough parking spaces in winter. If we came back even a little late, there wouldn't be any available. But this year, I've noticed that there aren't many in the parking spaces. More importantly, it's not just overseas scholars who are pessimistic about Hainan. The pro-Beijing Hong Kong newspaper Mingpao pointed out that Hainan's preparations for becoming a free trade port over the past 6 years have coincided with the retreat of globalization and the escalating high-tariff confrontation between China and the US, making it born at the wrong time. Several scholars within the Chinese system also acknowledge that Hainan's weak industrial base, insufficient supporting infrastructure, and remote location limit its appeal to young people and high-end enterprises. Even though the government claims to have attracted 850,000 talents of various kinds, the reality is that incomes are low, opportunities are limited, and retaining talent is difficult. Residents in Haikou say there's a strange yet very real situation. Walking down the street, you'll find that storefronts are almost everywhere empty, with for rent signs hanging in rows. Especially in areas that used to be bustling, the foot traffic is noticeably lower. Many small companies that were barely surviving are now going out of business. Even larger companies are constantly laying off employees and cutting salaries, clearly struggling. In this environment, people's career choices are becoming increasingly concentrated. Delivery services, errand running, and ride-hailing have become popular choices, leaving these industries almost completely saturated in Haikou. Cars are on the road, but drivers aren't getting many orders, creating a situation where each sector is essentially draining the other's resources.
因为很多人下岗了，暂时没有更好的去处。
Because many people have been laid off and don't have better options, they have no choice but to work in these industries. Haikou is a city with a high cost of living and low income. Many people's wages are not enough to support their families. Therefore, in Haikou, many families have both young and old working, and many people still don't receive their wages.
你发现了吗？
Have you noticed? It's said that there are 100,000 people in Haikou, but I don't believe it. I don't know where everyone has gone. The streets are deserted, parks are empty, and even the street behind me, which used to be bustling, is deserted. Where have all the people in Haikou gone? 5 years ago, every street was packed with people. Where have they all gone? Did they all go back to farming? The situation in Sanya is the same.
三亚的打工人也躲不过35岁门槛。
Even migrant workers in Sanya can't escape the 35-year-old age barrier. A former tourism planner has now switched to driving for ride-hailing services. Hotel managers on the Sanya Bay to Haitong Bay route have lowered their standards to sell seafood at the first market. And tour guides are all doing live streaming e-commerce, selling Sanya mangoes and coconuts. Even more frustrating is that some job postings state salary negotiable, but upon meeting, the immediate question is, can you accept a 50% pay cut? I'm already unemployed. Why don't you ask if I can accept a raise? As for whether Hainan will become the Hong Kong of the South China Sea, officials and pro-Beijing scholars have been actively downplaying the issue. Hainan fully applies mainland Chinese law, so the so-called border closure is essentially a regulatory experiment of domestic but outside customs, not an actual free port. Xie Tian bluntly stated that the CCP did indeed once want to replace Hong Kong with Hainan, but Hainan lacks the freedom that Hong Kong once possessed. Now, Hainan's own economic weakness may actually drag down Hong Kong. Reality is just as unforgiving. In 2024, Hainan's GDP ranked 4th from the bottom nationwide. Once highly anticipated, the state-owned duty-free project Sanya High-Live Super Complex, which opened with great fanfare at the end of 2023, quietly shut down in less than 2 years. On the supposedly celebrity milestone of the island-wide customs closure, official media fell into collective silence. Online, some netizens mocked the situation, saying, Hainan Island's largest duty-free store has closed down. The Chinese dream has once again turned into a nightmare. Shot from the hip policy making continues to lead the world, while investors speed straight into the crematorium. When politics overrides the market, is such a free trade port truly a window to the world, or merely a carefully polished economic island? The day of the customs closure may not mark the beginning of Hainan's takeoff, but rather the moment when all its underlying problems finally surfaced. That's all for today. If you enjoy our content, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, leave a comment, and share it with a friend. We appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.